Hello, thanks for joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Precious Ozomina. Let's bring you the headlines. Fierce fighting ongoing in Sudan in spite of the extension of truce. Egyptian authority grants approval for the evacuation of Nigerians through its airport. And President Muhammadu Buhari advocates upholding of concept of decent work and the adoption of social dialogue for national cohesion and improved productivity of workers. Fierce fighting broke out again Monday between Sudan's army and paramilitaries, despite the formal extension of a truce, after the United Nations warned the humanitarian situation has reached a breaking point. Charles Alpha reports.
On Monday, warplanes were flying over southern Khartoum, with anti-aircraft guns also firing, while loud guns were also heard on Monday. Burhan and Dagalo have agreed multiple poorly observed ceasefires and extended the latest formal truce on Sunday by 72 hours, with each side repeatedly blaming the other for the frequent violations. Millions of Sudanese are trapped in the country, where aid workers are among the dead. Humanitarian facilities have been looted and foreign aid groups have been forced to essentially halt all aid operations.
The fighting must stop immediately. We need an all-out effort for peace. This conflict will not and must not be resolved on the battlefield with the bodies of Sudan's people. The Sudanese people have made their wishes very clear. They want peace and the restoration of civilian rule through the transition to democracy. The parties to the conflict must respect the 72-hour ceasefire and come together to establish a permanent cessation of hostilities.
Top UN humanitarian official Martin Griffin said he was heading to the region to help bring immediate relief to the millions of people whose lives have turned upside down overnight, saying the humanitarian situation is reaching breaking point as goods, essentials for people's survival, are becoming scarce in the hardest hit urban centers, especially Khartoum. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
A report from Cairo says the Egyptian authorities have granted approval for the evacuation of Nigerians through Egypt. Now, the permission is due to the high-level diplomatic consultation between the federal government and the Egyptian government. However, the permission for the airlift of the evacuees of Nigeria extraction is with stringent conditions and guidelines. Before the approval this Monday, the federal government has dispatched NAFC 130 to Egypt Saturday night. The aircraft left Abuja with a lot of dry food, water, medications, among other basic needs. And joining us in the studio to speak on the issue happening in Sudan and the evacuation of Nigerians, we have a retired permanent secretary and a diplomat, Ambassador Joe Keshi. Thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
All right. How would you describe the situation presently now in Sudan? Can you hear me, sir? Ambassador, did you get my question?
Yes, I think I can hear how we can describe the evacuation situation.
Yes.
Well, I think it's some good news that eventually the Egyptians have granted permission for Nigeria to use its airspace to evacuate Nigerians who have crossed into Egypt. And I sincerely hope that in the same spirit that the Egyptians have granted us permission, that we utilize the window provided to lift Nigerians out of that country as quickly as possible.
Okay, we've seen the humanitarian crisis, which we hear has reached a breaking point. What do you make out of that?
Well, look, in crises like this, you can be sure that there will be, and whether today or yesterday or in the near future, there would always be humanitarian crisis. The most important thing for nations to do, particularly us, given what Nigerians have gone through in this situation, is to be well prepared. I'm glad, and I take pride in saying that on another network some couple of days ago, I suggested the use of the Air Force and the Navy, to go ahead and pick up and join in evacuating Nigerians. So if there's any lesson we have to learn from this, is the fact that we should be prepared. We should not allow situations like this again to overwhelm us. And then we begin to get reports of, Nigerians being stranded or, unable to find their way home. We must have a template. We must have an arrangement, coordinated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, not the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. They practically have no business in this evacuation. Okay, and so once we do that, I believe that things will begin to work out well in case of future, disturbances anywhere in Africa, especially.
Okay, and we saw that following the approval, or permission rather, from Egyptian authorities, it took high-level diplomatic consultation before they gave this permission to Nigeria to be able to airlift evacuees from Cairo. In situations like these, what would you say, played out?
Well, look, I think what played out, is the fact that, there was no prior arrangement or consultations, made, and now that has taken place, I think it has resolved the problems. But what we should focus on is whether there was no diplomatic or, arrangements initially. The most important thing is that approval has been granted, and we must use the window provided to airlift Nigerians out of Egypt as quickly as possible. And let's bear in mind, it's not only in Egypt, I believe we have, Nigerians. I'm sure there are others who've gone to other countries nearby. We must find a way to get everybody home as quickly as possible.
And of course, the federal government says no Nigerian will be left unattended to. Everybody will be evacuated back home. How do you see the feasibility of this happening following the whole circumstances that has played out the past few days?
No, that's not true. It's very easy for those issuing out these statements to stay in Abuja and say no Nigerian, will be left behind. Look, whether anywhere, whether by Nigerian or the Americans or the British, people are always left behind. What we need to do is, first of all, attend to those who are prepared to leave. And those who are coming in later, we continue to make, the government should continue to make arrangements to find a way to bring them home. People are always left behind in situations like this. And I have the experience, to talk about such situations. You saw what happened in Afghanistan. We Americans not left behind. They were left behind. If you've been following the global news, a couple of British, Americans, and Italians and the rest are still in Khartoum as we speak. So people will always be left behind. But like other countries are doing, they are making arrangements to see how they can reach out to these people and bring them out. That's what we should be doing, and not to be making spurious statements that nobody will be left behind. That's political. It's not helpful to the people on the ground.
All right, following the indices we've seen, what would you describe in terms of Nigeria's bilateral relations with Egypt, going by the timing, a bit of prolonged timing before giving permission, for Nigerians stranded there to be given permission to be evacuated?
Well, look, you must sympathize with Egypt. It's like us waking up one morning and to discover that refugees are pouring into our country, uncontrolled. Every nation has a responsibility to protect its people and to protect its borders.
Yeah.
We have a very good relationship with, Egypt. And I'm sure that this crisis, not that it caught everybody unawares, but I think most countries were not prepared and ready that the situation will deteriorate so quickly that, the two characters, or actors will begin to fight each other. But it has happened. We have a very good relationship with Egypt. They've granted permission at the end of the day. Diplomacy has worked. And so let's use the opportunity to bring Nigerians home. That is the most important thing now.
And very important too, the parents of these students who are stranded, also we've seen the agitations, you know, the worries. What would you advise, and also the government?
Well, look, you know, it's difficult when you begin to question why did they go out in the first place. They have reasons for going out in the first place. But we must understand one thing, that if we make our educational system sound and comprehensive, you know, and the universities run on time, students who are expected to graduate in 4 years, graduate in 4 years and not in 7 or 8 years, I think most students would like to school in this country. I believe so. You know, look, nobody wants to travel out and go and school and suffer all kinds of things. And may I use this opportunity to appeal to some parents, particularly those who are rich and who can afford it. There's really, in the world of today, there's really no pride or status symbol that my child is schooling abroad or my child is overseas schooling. Some people in this country, Nigerians, send their kids to primary schools abroad. There are fantastic and great primary schools in this country. There are fantastic and great secondary schools in this country and universities that are still doing their best.
Yeah.
So let's parents, you know, it pays them to have their kids school here in the first instance before they begin to go abroad. And I sincerely hope that parents, you know, will be patriotic enough to say, okay, you know, the situation in this country, bad as it is, it's not terrible. I'll be among those who say this. So let's parents keep their kids here, see them grow, or enjoy the opportunity of having your kids around you.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, they're going to walk out of the home and, you know, you'll be looking for them. That's the honest truth.
Okay.
Many of us parents have gone through that situation, particularly folks like us that are diplomats that, you know, keep seeing our children, leaving them in some cities who finish their schooling. It's an opportunity we must not use to bond with our kids in their development stages, you know.
Ambassador Joe Keshi, you've just hit the nail on the head. They say no place like home, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. We turn to other issues. Paraguayans have elected Santiago Peña, a 44-year-old conservative economist, as their new president. Now, this keeps the South American nation in control of the right-wing Colorado party that has run the country for all but 5 of the past 76 years. Charles Alpha reports.
The long-governing Colorado party remained the dominant force of Paraguayan politics as a vote count from Sunday's election gave an overwhelming lead to its presidential candidate, Santiago Peña. Voters also gave support to Colorado in congressional elections, with the Conservative Party winning majorities of 45 seats in the Senate and 800 in the lower house. The opposition had sought to capitalize on widespread discontent over high level of corruption and deficiencies in the health and education system that worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Paraguay was a relatively stable economy, but with high levels of poverty. Outgoing President Mario Abdo Benitez called Peña president-elect in a congratulatory message on social media before a winner was officially declared. He also congratulated the Paraguayan people for their large participation in the election. Charles Alpha, NTAi News.
All right, let's take this break. We're back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. The coronation of King Charles III and his wife Camilla as King and Queen of the United Kingdom and the other Commonwealth realms has been scheduled for this Saturday, 6th May at the Westminster Abbey. Charles Alpha reports.
Compared with previous coronations, this ceremony will undergo some operations to represent multiple faiths, cultures and communities across the United Kingdom, and will be shorter than his mother's coronation in 1953. This ceremony will begin with the anointing of Charles, symbolizing his spiritual entry into kingship, and then his crowning and enthronement, representing his assumption of temporal powers and responsibilities. Camilla will be crowned in a shorter and simpler ceremony. The royal family will travel to Buckingham Palace afterward in a state procession and appear on the balcony to celebrate the occasion. The coronation ceremony, Buckingham Palace says, will be marked by public ceremonies and celebrations in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the British Crown, dependencies, and overseas territories. On May 7, the coronation big launch will take place in the United Kingdom, providing the public with the opportunity to mark the occasion with street parties.
Now we're going to celebrate the King Charles III coronation with his Queen Camilla. That's what I'm doing now, celebrating with the whole nation.
I don't want to miss this one. It's a very historic moment. Have to be here to get a really good spot. We've got nothing. The spot we've picked, we've got nothing obscuring with you. It's a brilliant position.
Also, a coronation concert will be held on the same day at Windsor Castle with representatives of the King and Queen's charities as well as members of the general public in attendance. This will be the first coronation of the British monarch in the 21st century and the 40th to be held at Westminster Abbey since 1066.
The European Commission and the European Investment Bank have announced 18 billion euros of financial aid on the Global Gateway, Europe's investment strategy for partner countries. Haman Jabani reports that the fund will boost investment in Global Gateway's priority areas like climate change, clean energy and connectivity.
The Global Gateway strategy is the European Union's positive offer to partner countries in support of their resilience and sustainable development. The offer aims at narrowing the global investment gap with value-driven investment from public and private sectors, supporting global economic recovery and accompanying the twin green and digital transformation outside the EU. Across the world, Global Gateway aims at mobilizing 300 billion euro investment between 2021 and 2027 with a mix of grants, concessions, loans, guarantee of de-risk private sector investment. The EU's Global Gateway strategy is on track to deliver on the target. European Investment Bank Global, the European arm of the European Investment Bank, will mobilize at least 100 billion euro of this target. Financing from European Investment Bank has already mobilized 31 billion euro. President of the Commission, van der Leyen, said Europe is already the top provider of climate financing globally and of financial development assistance, but more is needed to bridge the climate finance gap, and everyone needs to chip in.
Where we invest together with countries, for example, from the Global South, because if we speak about fighting climate change, we speak about clean energy, we speak about wind, we speak about solar, it's green hydrogen, and these resources are in abundance in the Global South. As European Union, we have decided together with the European Investment Bank that we will mobilize another 18 billion euros to make sure that there is investment in critical infrastructure in the Global South to fight climate change together. It's action now that counts.
The EU and its member states remain the world's leading donor, providing 43% of global official development assistance in 2022. The collective ODA increase reached 92.8 billion euro in 2022, up from 71.6 billion euro in 2021. Haman Jabani, NTA News.
Let's turn our attention back home. Today is actually International Workers' Day, and being the last Workers' Day marked under his administration, President Muhammadu Buhari is urging the incoming government to uphold the concept of decent work and adoption of social dialogue for national cohesion and improved productive workers. The president made the remark at the 2023 Workers' Day celebrated in Abuja. Joseph Otsen reports.
They are seen along streets and heaps of refuse collecting waste materials. Many will find it difficult to identify them as workers, but they are out here to make a statement that they are also contributing to socio-economic development of the country and should be treated right.
A week, we used to gather even more than a trailer of this empty rubber, and we are taking it to Lagos to recycle.
It is for workers like this and many others going through difficult times to cope with life that the organized labor tagged the 2023 Workers' Day Workers' Right and Socio-Economic Justice. The drive is to move beyond demands for wages to access to quality education, health, security, and inclusivity.
If they want increased productivity, which is the basis for national development, then they must be prepared to treat us better. They must be prepared to treat us first as humans, then as major contributors to the wealth creation.
President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, identifies with the yearning of the workers, explaining why his administration took several steps to improve wages and implementation of social interventions.
I encourage the incoming administration to continue to respect workers' rights, imbued with socio-economic development and driven by the 4 pillars of decent work agenda to promote jobs and enterprise, guaranteeing rights at work, extending social protection, and promoting social dialogue for consensus building and maintenance of industrial relationships.
We have, as a government, also provided better working conditions and environment and events when we came. We have also invested in training and retraining, education, and human capacity development for Nigerian workers, especially those in the public sector.
Let us have a peaceful country. We have no other country except this one. And we must build it, and we must build it for our children.
The 2023 Workers' Day comes with a drive for deeper protection in workplaces that will ensure greater socio-economic justice and perhaps giving a sense of belonging to all, including these scrap and waste workers. In Abuja, Joseph Otsen, NTA News.
Still on the Workers' Day celebration, the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu has extended his hands of friendship to the Nigerian workers through the 2 central labor unions, Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress. As Nigeria celebrates this day, President-elect Tinubu acknowledged the day as a special day in most parts of the world to salute and honor the working people whose hard work and sweat continue to oil the wheel of human progress and advancement. In a statement he issued personally, Tinubu promised that when sworn in as the president of the country, the workers would find him a dependable ally and co-laborer in the fight for social and economic justice for all Nigerians, including all the working people. Away from the International Workers' Day, the immediate past Minister of Niger Delta Affairs and former Governor of Akwa Ibom State, Godswill Akpabio, has formally informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his aspiration to become the President of the 10th Senate. And this was at an audience with the Nigerian leader at the presidential villa Sunday evening. State House correspondent Adam Sambo reports.
Senator Godswill Akpabio, who served as minority leader of the 8th Senate before his appointment as minister, has just been re-elected into the National Assembly. He is here to show President Muhammadu Buhari his certificate of return and formally appreciate him for his selfless service of the country, worthy legacies for posterity, and ensuring that the governing APC remains united and formidable.
I thank him for the opportunity to serve Nigeria in that capacity, and also to let him know that we'll continue to pray for him, so that God will continue to sustain him as we move forward. And as the transition from him to the incoming president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that God will continue to give Nigeria peace, and through them, that progress will remain our portion in the country.
During the visit, Senator Akpabio sought President Muhammadu Buhari's blessings for his aspiration to become the president of the 10th Senate.
And he was happy to hear that.
So what is Senator Akpabio bringing on board?
Akpabio is known as an uncommon transformer. Akpabio is known as a man who is result-oriented. I recall that when I was a governor, I brought so many innovations to bear, infrastructurally, educationally, socially, and otherwise, and also in terms of human empowerment. So I intend to bring a lot of reforms into the Senate in the ways and manner we do business, to assist the next administration to succeed. We will be very thorough in doing everything. We will bring about loyalty to the Constitution. We will bring about loyalty to Nigerians. We will tackle issues through legislation. We have done a lot of consultations, and they've been very positive and well received. In fact, it's almost like a woman who was already 8 months pregnant, just a month to deliver.
The 10th National Assembly will be inaugurated early next month under the incoming Bola Tinubu administration. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And we're done. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Precious Ozomina. Bye.